from those nice progressive people who brought you the Kennedys and the Clintons. Now we have Cory Booker. Cory Booker is making a lot of news over the last few days. He played a prominent role during the Kavanaugh hearings, the Kavanaugh witch hunt. He played a prominent role there by advocating that the fact of the accusations justified an FBI investigation, a detailed, no-holds-barred FBI investigation of Brett Kavanaugh because there had been accusations. Not that there were substantiated accusations, just that there were accusations. And so it's in that context that it was interesting that over the last few days, over the weekend, we've seen reports of Cory Booker having been accused of sexually assaulting a man in a bathroom. Now, from the get-go here, I want to make plain, I totally want to apply consistently the presumption of innocence to Cory Booker, just as I would want it applied to Judge Kavanaugh or anyone else. Certainly myself. It's what I would want myself. And this is how we need to be thinking of these things when we're wondering about concepts like, or principles like, innocent until proven guilty, the presumption of innocence. Think about how you would want to be treated. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Would you want and expect, and are you relying upon the idea that you would be presumed innocent until proven guilty of a charge, should someone bring a charge against you? I mean, that's vital. And so, in the context of the stories we're going to be examining here, I just want to make plain, I am not saying I think these accusations have merit, that there's truth to them or not. I don't know. I'm assuming nothing until something's proven. All I want to point out, though, is the fact of the accusation now being out there. It's all over the internet, at least the non-mainstream media, non-NPC internet. And this guy's standards, by Cory Booker's own standards, this warrants an investigation. And so articles like this one at Zero Hedge, Cory Booker accused of sexually assaulting man in restroom. And here's another one also posted yesterday. Senator Cory Booker accused of sexual assault by gay man. Well, he's been accused. It's out there. What's going to happen? What do we do? How seriously do we take that? Well, if you're the mainstream NPC media, you ignore it. Of course, that's the way it goes. Because, especially in the case of Cory Booker, because he has since, as of earlier today, he's announced that he has a great new plan for America. Cory Booker's bill. This is at the Washington Times. This is what the Washington Times is covering as it relates to Cory Booker. Cory Booker's bill to create taxpayer-funded savings account for every American born in the U.S. Wow. Taxpayer-funded, meaning this is money confiscated by force from people who earn it and then given to people that Cory Booker determines ought to have it. That's what he's into. So, in one way, shape, or form or another, the dude is very much a rapist and a pillager. I don't know that it's in the sense of these articles here at Zero Hedge and these allegations, but this guy is all about pillaging people, taking things that don't belong to him. Anyway, you get the picture. And then we see here one of my favorite sites, favorite NPC sites, Vox. They're gushing over this, of course. An exclusive look at Cory Booker's plan to fight wealth inequality. Give poor kids money. This is the NPC media at its finest, Vox. Let's read through a little bit of this. You get a sense of why they love this and why they want to use this and are happy to use this as a story to focus on in lieu of covering the thing that, by Cory Booker's own standards, warrants an FBI investigation. America has a massive growing racial wealth gap. The median white family today holds nearly 10 times the wealth of the median black family. Senator Cory Booker is introducing a bill aimed at closing that gap. His idea is to give lower-income kids a sizable nest egg, nearly $50,000 in some cases, that they could use for wealth-building purchases, like a down payment on a house or college tuition. Isn't it great here to see the way this is presented so enthusiastically? The noble, beautiful things that these people might do with the money that they're given, that's stolen from people who earned it and given to them. The wonderful things they might do. How could you be opposed to this? Because, of course, from the NPC media perspective, if you oppose this, you're opposed to poor people making down payments on houses or paying for college tuition. That's what that means. Let's continue with the article. These opportunity accounts would theoretically make sure all children have significant assets when they enter adulthood rather than just those who grow up in wealthier homes. And this is all a part of the state replacing families. It's not fair, you see, that some families are responsible and that their children benefit from responsible management of time, wealth, resources, talents. No, that's wrong. See, state should become mommy and daddy for everybody and see to it that things are distributed evenly so that children who are, I agree, it's sad and unfortunate that some children are born to very irresponsible, destructive parents, but that relationship would be mitigated by the state, you see, so that parents don't really have to be responsible because the state's going to level the playing field anyway. So parents aren't really parents. Big Daddy government is mommy and daddy, superseding mommy and daddy anyway. Let's continue with the article. It would be a dramatic change in our country to have low-income people break out of generational poverty, Booker said in an interview with Vox. We could rapidly bring security into those families' lives, and that is really exciting to me. Lots of things excite Cory Booker. And they all have to do with pillaging in one form or another, it seems like. The hypocrisy. He was very excited about Kavanaugh having to endure an FBI investigation based on utterly unsubstantiated accusations. Now that he has been accused of sexually assaulting someone in a men's restroom, well, where does this land? Where does all this stuff fit together? The bottom line is that Marxists of all stripes, and there are plenty of them in the Republican Party, don't think for a second that the Republicans are the conservative good guys and that the liberals and the leftists and the Democrats are all the Marxists. No, Marxism's a very mainstream American thing now. But it's more flagrant on the left, and the NPC media cannot help but gush over the most overtly Marxist approaches to everything. Redistribution, the confiscation and redistribution of wealth is obviously a cornerstone thing for these people. And so they're literally willing to allow for those people, those politicians who are able to advance the ball, the Marxism agenda, the Marxist agenda, and put forth insane ideas like this, they're literally allowed to rape and pillage at will without scrutiny as much as possible by the mainstream NPC media, like Vox. That's why they're willing and happy to talk about more Marxism through in the guise of government, American government, and willing to just ignore the charges that, if it was Brett Kavanaugh, would warrant, by Cory Booker standards, an FBI investigation. So let's continue with this article. Similar ideas have swirled around think tanks since the early 2000s, but Booker appears to be the first high-profile senator to introduce legislation to create such a program. As a possible 2020 presidential nominees like Booker begin to unveil ambitious policy ideas like Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan or Kamala Harris's new cash assistance plan, Booker appears ready to focus on racial inequality in America and how to solve it. Just let that soak in. Confiscating wealth, making people more and more dependent. And what does dependence mean? Slavery. This man and his party and his entire political philosophy is all about making slaves, expanding the plantation, convincing the slaves that they're really free and getting them to just vote for him so that he can enjoy the high life where you can assault men in restrooms with impunity, while everyone else is increasingly dependent on the big government that he heads. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that what public service is all about? Making yourself a king and pretending to be serving people, that you're doing it for the people. Interesting. All right, now let's continue with Vox's NPC explanation of these opportunity accounts. I love the Orwellian language. It's the opportunity for you and I who work for a living to be pillaged, to pay for these other people to buy their slaves. That's what the opportunity is. It's their opportunity to own more slaves, our opportunity to pay for them. America's wealth gap grew rapidly through the late 20th century. In 1963, families at the top of America's wealth distribution had 6 times the wealth of those in the middle. By 2012, the wealthiest had 12 times the assets of middle-income families. Specific government policies have driven the racial gap by making it specifically harder for minorities to accrue wealth. The decades-long practice of the Federal Housing Authority refused to underwrite housing loans to many black families, for example, made it difficult for those families to pass on the earnings of real estate to their children the way a white family might. Again, not a decade ago, we were in the middle of the housing collapse that brought about the great economic downturn. It was all built off of, fueled by these loans that never should have been given out to families that weren't qualified, many of whom were black, not all. I mean, it's not like it was a black thing, but the same lines. The NPC media, the NPC worldview is very narrow. They have very few ways of expressing themselves. They have a very narrow, shallow pool of thoughts that they can dive into to express a position on anything. It's always the same stuff over and over and over again. Race baiting, identity politics, and rank Marxism as the solution. That's all it is. And that's what we see with here, the Vox article, other treatments, the Washington Times, talking about Cory Booker's brave new bill to create taxpayer-funded savings accounts for every American born in the U.S. Isn't that awesome? Well, no, it isn't, because that's slavery. That's bondage. These are people who want to own you and I. They want to run the plantation. They want you to work on it. And they want you to call that good old American freedom. So these are the things we ought to be paying attention to. The combination of stories here circulating around Cory Booker at the same time is interesting, ironic, providentially cool in a lot of ways. It's very sad, but it's very revealing. And we need to pay attention that these people, they're all about assaulting us in any number of ways, sometimes even physically raping and pillaging at will. With the big factor here to remember is the enabling factor of the NPC media. They're bad characters in politics on both sides. And the fact that the Democrat Party's been loaded with and enabled routinely by the mainstream, fake news, NPC media, the Clintons, the Kennedys, they just rape and pillage at will, like literally, they can do anything. And we see it continuing here under in the guise here of Cory Booker. And even if these accusations are not true, and they could well not be, innocent until proven guilty, there's a certain mentality here on display through his approach to your money and my money and our lives, our freedom, our being or not being slaves to his system. It tells us something about this guy's willingness to impose himself, to force himself on others. And that's what government has become in the United States. It's compulsion of the masses to serve the likes of creepy Cory Booker. If you appreciated this video and you want to support what we're doing, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the little bell icon so that you can be notified every time we post a new video, which we're hoping to do regularly on a daily basis from here on out on this subject and related subjects. Thank you very much for your support. Without it, we can't continue to do this.